Alright, hey guys, so this video we're going to discuss how the ski industry's changed equipment to enable skiers to kind of get out in steeper powder runs without having to develop the kind of technique that we've been discussing and just adapting their groomer technique to the terrain. And that's the point of ski equipment, right? If you're going to spend a bunch of money on powder specific skis, then they should help you ski powder, right? It shouldn't be difficult, and you're spending that extra money for that luxury, so you should get something for it. So what do wide skis and rockered skis do for you, and why is that what they market to people now? So a lot of what people call a rocker, I think I mentioned this before, it's a lot of it is they've just taken the tip upturn of a traditional ski and spread it over a longer length of the ski. And what that does is it does a few things for you, but and I'll show you in the photos here. But specifically at tip profiles, is a lot of rockering now. I think they've recognized that you can over rocker a ski, and it's actually a significant detriment to skiing, and they're not suitable, particularly for skiers that buy one ski for all of their daily skiing, regular skiing, ends up not being a good setup. So the industry largely sells rocker camber rocker skis or rocker camber skis, depending on where you're at and what you're doing. And a full rockered ski is basically not sold anymore, even though that's how they started modifying this. And the industry is smart. They keep making these small changes and convincing the consumer that these small changes are meaningful, so they buy new equipment and spend that money. I'm skiing on the same skis I bought in 2013, and they were built in 2011, and I like them. So it tells you if you're smart and you got good technique, the marketing doesn't matter so much. You can just ignore it as much as you are able to until your skis are on the indemnified, or your bindings are on the indemnified list, and you can't get worked on anymore. If you need them to be worked on, and then you're in trouble. You got to buy something new. Okay, so what does a rocker and width do for the skier? So in this sense, we'll talk width first because it's easier to understand width, I think. They're both pretty easy concepts. So the width of a ski, so the skier, so here I'm the skier, I'm skiing on skis that are 110 at the tip, 80 at the waist, and 103 at the tail. And they're not very heavy. They're pretty lightweight skis. It's a traditional poplar construction ski with some fiberglass in it, I think. So this ski, it's not very wide. It would not, and compared to most skis today, it's 20 millimeters narrower across the whole length of the ski than the average Paul Mountain ski. But I'm used skiing in powder with it without a problem. So what does a wider ski do? So simply put, the wider the ski is, the more surface area the skier has. So the skier's weights haven't changed. You can imagine I'm not getting heavier, generally speaking, but if I put a wider ski on, I have more surface area that I'm standing upon. And it's just like if you've been surfing, a small surfboard is hard to surf on, or a big surfboard is easier to surf on, because you have the bigger surface area gives you more flexibility or leeway in terms of where your center of mass is. So as the surface area that your center of mass is on shrinks, it's easier to get your center of mass in the wrong spot, and then you're off the board. And same thing with skiing. So the wider the ski is, the bigger platform you're skiing off of, and that makes your life generally easier, gives you more flexibility for making mistakes with your center of mass. So particularly in powder skiing, what you find is that the wider the ski is, there's more surface area that you push down on when you're building that pressure to build that platform to initiate your turn off of. And so you don't have to apply as much pressure than if you were on a narrower ski. So it's like a linear relationship. So as the ski gets wider, you don't have to apply as much pressure to develop that platform. And the consequence is you don't sink as much into the snow. So when skiers, you hear they use the term float. Oh, the ski provides great flotation. It's better to think of it the other way around. The ski is so wide that I don't have to apply as much pressure downward to compress the snow that I'm to turn off of. The ski is so wide that it's compressing there's just more snow to compress. Just like a wider pull basket, there's more snow on that basket that's being compressed, so the pull doesn't sink in as far. So I mean, you can think of that as flotation, but really, I think it's smarter to think of it as compression. Because there's more surface area, you do less compression to get the same platform to initiate your turn off of. And the result is that you sink less into the snow because you don't have to apply as much pressure. So what you end up in a situation with really wide skis is they don't need really deep snow to use that powder skiing technique. And then, like I said, once you get past like 6 inches of snowfall, there's no difference to that technique. They don't really care what's underneath those top 6 inches or 4 inches. That's what they're skiing. That's as far in as they're going. Where the narrower the ski is, you're going to transit the snowpack much more, and then depth of snow is more important. And then I think you get more fun. To me, the fun factor goes up. It takes more technique and probably strength because you have to do more work in the snowpack and more feel and control. But that's part of being a good skier. So so that's what width does for you. So the rocker part of it, these are a good set of photos for the rocker side. So you can see my skis. These skis are what would be considered full camber, even though they have a big tip that's gently turned up, but it's not a rocker. It is a full camber ski. This tip it's just not the way it's not like a camber the way the industry thinks of a camber. So it's a rocker, the way the industry thinks of a rocker. It is a full cambered ski. So what we see here is you can see the full camber ski, so it acts like a spring. So at this phase here, I'm compressing that spring down, and I'm building that platform to initiate my turn off of. I initiate the turn, and I pop out of the snow. Again, I'm not jumping. It's the combination of me extending upward and the ski flexing back from being pushed into a rocker shape back into its cambered shape, and then the tip of the ski riding out of the snowpack. That gives you that movement. And then you're in the air. And what you'll see is as I come down, so in this case I didn't sink in super deep into the snow because it's denser, but what do you see in the ski shape from these two shots? And it's very clear to see that you go from this full camber to a rocker shape. So my skis by me applying pressure, I flex the ski and it becomes a rocker. So, and that's why the ski industry created rockers, was that to make that happen, that takes skill, that takes strength, that takes precision and technique. And those aren't easy to acquire. You have to spend a lot of time practicing and training and being out in the snow to get to a point where this is what you're doing. So what can you do if you're the manufacturer? Well, you make this shape into the ski. And so that's what they've done, is why have the skier have all that technique and strength when you can aid them with a ski that is already giving them this shape. So what is this shape doing? Well, it's similar to the width component in that the rocker of the ski, what it's doing is in that rocker zone, it is compressing snow. So right in here, this part of the ski is now doing the snow compression, and that's going to give me that platform to initiate my turn off of. So in order to get there, I have to take this full camber ski and bend it to the rocker shape, and now I'm getting snow compression. So if the ski already has the rocker shape, then it's always compressing the snow as I move down or as they move forward. They're always compressing the snow, so you always have a platform to initiate a turn off of. So all the rocker ski does is it's like an auto compressor of snow, so that the skier doesn't have to start the compression on their own. Now the downside to doing that is there's no rebound, right? So here I've compressed it. Now I'm going to start my extension. So I've compressed the snow and I've created my platform. I've initiated my turn. I start extending and I pop. Boop, I'm out of the snow. Well, a full rocker ski will not do that. There's no spring here. See, the ski is back to camber. Well, a full rocker ski, there's no camber. So it doesn't give you that pop. So just like with the width of a ski, a rocker, you lose this dynamic motion. You don't have this vertical motion through the snowpack. It is gone, and that's partly where you see those. If you look at video 0 on those first couple photos of those guys on modern rocker wide skis, and they're not moving very much through the snowpack. that's what you get. You get that kind of not very exciting, not dynamic turn, where with this setup you get a much more dynamic and interesting to look at turn, or interesting to perform turn. Anyway, so that's what so when you combine a rocker and width, now you have you're both of those things. So the bigger surface area of the ski and the auto compression of the ski means that the skier has to do very little work. None of this dynamic up and down movement occurs. There's none of that kind of in and out extension compression of the snow, of the body in the snow. They don't need to do it. The ski is physically doing that for them. And I want to call it lazy, but in a certain sense it takes a lot less work. So there's a lot less work physically on the skier to be able to ski powder. And again, that's, as I started this video, that's why the industry started making skis like this, was that why, if people are going to buy new equipment, that equipment should aid those people in skiing powder. And as time has gone on, the industry simply made things wider and more rockered. What they found, though, was that skiers actually, particularly because they're selling powder skis to people that don't ski powder very often, if you sold a full rockered wide ski, it wouldn't be that useful to skiers, and skiers would hate it. And so that's why they've kind of backed off. So you can imagine, and you've probably seen this at Liberty or any other podunk kind of ski resort, if you're skiing on something that's rockered all the time, like two big old bananas underneath your feet, what happens is you have an effective edge that's very small. It's basically the area under the boot, or area under the binding, right? And then the tips and the tails are going to vibrate up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down as you go across a surface that's hard, because they're not in contact with the snow and they're not aiding the skier. So you end up skiing on something that's not very stable. And that's why the ski industry, realizing or listening to skiers' complaints, was like, hey, that setup isn't very useful to skiers. So they added the rocker camber rocker, and then now the rocker camber. So the rocker camber rocker, you have this shape, and then you have a camber, and then you have another rocker, and then now you have an effective edge that's bigger, and then you have this auto compressing thing. And they sold rocker camber rockers for people. The idea is, oh, you might land backward or ski backward. That's really not why very few people ski backward. And the people that do don't do it for very long, and oftentimes it's on accident. So really what this does is it makes the ski shorter. It turns shorter by having a rocker camber rocker. The ski is effectively a shorter ski, again, because that effective edge is smaller. And it enables the modern day powder skier to help smear their turns, because they don't have that, just like when you detune your edges when you're mogul skiing, because you don't want them to hook. At a certain point you need them to release. So that's what this is doing. It's a similar effect by having a rocker camber rocker. So again, for most skiers, the ski industry was like, oh, you know what, that isn't all that useful, because they're buying a powder ski, but they're skiing groomers 90% of the time because the conditions just aren't right for powder skiing. So now what you see is a lot of skis are rocker then full camber, and so your effective edge looks like this, and that gives you more ski. People tend to ski on their tails more, but most people that are skiing groomers maybe are weight backward anyway. But then you still retain that compression of snow in the front. And then it's another point where the ski industry can sell more product to people. So oftentimes you'll see a lot of skis are listed as rocker camber now. Most modern skis will be rocker camber or rocker camber rocker. And really, for this type of powder skiing, you are best off with a full camber ski and not this rocker camber rocker setup that we see modern day. So that's what the ski industry has done to sell product to people that don't know any better. And it does, wider skis do make it easier, but I think it's a less involved form of skiing, and I think it's a less exciting, and particularly at ski resort skiing, it's less useful. I think at ski resort skiing, where you're in a variety of terrain, a full camber ski is still probably the best tool, even though people don't want to hear that. Okay, that's it for this video, and I'll see you guys in another video.